I'll start with notice of meeting logistics and there you
Okay, is the sound picking me up? Is that better now, Steve?
Yeah, you start.
Okay, great. Anyone who's joining remotely, we would ask you to change your name display to your first and last name. Anyone who wishes to address the council, we would ask you to start by stating your name and where you live. And we ask you to keep your comments or questions to 3 minutes. If you're speaking about a specific agenda item, please keep your comments limited to that item. And anyone who wishes to speak must be called on by the mayor. Once you're recognized, you'll have 3 minutes to speak or to ask questions. And if you speak out of turn, discuss non-germane topics or go on too long, you may be interrupted. First item is to approve the agenda, and I'm aware of 2 changes. One is we're taking item 5E off the consent agenda, and we are taking item 8 off the agenda. And I believe that is it for an item 9.
Yes.
Other business. I must have an older one.
Oh, yes.
But the Resurrection Church is all we're talking. Okay. All right. I'll assume the agenda is approved. We are proceeding on with the bare minimum of members, and to take action to pass any proposition will require 4 votes. So I will be voting tonight. Next item is general business and appearances. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the council on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda. And since a review of the ballot is on tonight's agenda, anyone who wants to talk to us about any of the ballot items, please hold your comments until we come to that part of the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to speak about something that is not on the agenda? Steve.
Good thing we can afford a time. At least I didn't cut my hand. That's Jonathan Stewart, John Stewart.
You're up.
I want to raise a couple things to your attention and ask that we need to implement a practice of following up on these things. You always see Bill's hand, get out there and write things down, but nothing ever happens. You know, we will go back into a cold snap, and people do not have a warm place to stay or bathrooms while they're waiting for the bus to the shelter. You know, this is an easy problem to fix. Why am I feeding back? Did I turn the speaker up too loud, maybe? You could, maybe I'll turn this slightly away from the speaker. The snow removal cost us thousands. Maybe it was insured to knock a stoplight down. So we've lost 2 of the big wayfinding signs, and then a whole crossing signal at the corner of State and Main. And that's just reckless. That is absolutely reckless. I've talked to people who you drive equipment like that, you be aware of your surroundings. You don't just keep costing us $5 and $10 grand a pop. You know, I don't know what you're going to do about that. Apparently a hydraulic hose blew and blew hydraulic fluid all up Main Street between about Aubuchon's and Drawing Board. Bright red fluid in the snow, probably toxic, might more to an animal that would try to, you know, get in the snow. But they should have focused on complete snow removal in that area once they had contaminated the area with hydraulic fluid. I asked for clarification and got no response. I've asked about the icicles, ice removal. Apparently when they were there to replace the traffic signal, There was a bucket truck there to do that. Maybe that's how they got the hundreds of pounds of icicles off that building at the corner, the Cool Jules building. I think that follow up, a running list of the things, and a new counselor candidate asked me to not give you so many things at one time because it's hard to keep track of. But it's hard to keep track of them because I have to keep saying them year after year. You know, the one thing he remembered, you know, was the transit center door. But my point is a running log of issues that people take the time to assess and bring to your attention is not an unreasonable ask. So that way, when it was first called to your attention and a date, and then how long it's been unacted upon is a useful tool for management. Trash cans, I see that this grant application is on the agenda, or, you know, but we haven't replaced or recovered the garbage cans that were lost last year or 2 years ago in the flood.
Thanks, Steve. Zach Hughes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm Zach Hughes, right here in Montpelier. It'll be 34 years in November. Okay, I just wanted to thank the City Council for the continued hard work, and also want to thank the departing councilors who will be departing the council. And I'm going to give an early welcome to Jim Sheridan, him coming back. Wow, after a 12-year absence. That's great. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Zach. And by coincidence, Jim, you're up next. Jim, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Here we go.
Okay. Been 14 years, Zach, but thank you very much. I just have a quick question. Is it something that is put on the consent agenda when you want to be appointed as council representative to an entity? In this case, the senior center?
I can tell you that at our organizational meeting on March 12th, one of the items on the agenda will be making appointments to of council members to all the boards and bodies that we appoint people to.
Okay, so I'll bring it up then.
Okay, yeah. Well,
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in. We will have, we're planning on getting a whole list of the committees and boards out to council members well in advance of that meeting. So especially the new people can familiarize themselves with what all the boards are and what they do, and start thinking about what they might want to be interested in.
All right, thank you very much, Jack.
You're welcome. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Carrie.
I would like to request pulling off letter F.
Okay. And anything else? All right. Now, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda
I move we approve the consent agenda.
with the exception of items E and F? Yeah.
E and F.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda, except for E and F, is approved. Carrie, do you want to say something or just?
Sure. About F, I don't have a problem with this one, but it felt like a big enough move that it would be a good idea to have a chance for people to kind of take a look at it, and if anyone had anything from the public to say about it. I did have John Copans from the commission reached out to me, probably others too, to see if I had any questions. So I really appreciate that. I don't particularly, but I thought it would be really good to have an opportunity.
John, would you like to unmute yourself and tell us what this is all about?
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Really appreciate the opportunity. I meant to be there in person, but just ran by City Hall and realized, oops. So sorry to not be in the room with you all. A reminder that you all sort of considered this question and made a decision to support commission projects at $100,000 commitment back last summer. And this really is us coming back to you with more specifics around the projects that we are moving towards implementation phase on. Those three projects are a downtown building assessment, really working with property owners to give them some guidance in terms of where they can make flood resiliency improvements, a river's edge master plan, really looking at our river corridor throughout the city and where there are opportunities for flood resilience there. And then finally, thinking proactively about the federal building and potentially the pit, the parking lot that connects to the federal building parcel. It is clear that General Services Administration is moving forward with the disposition of that really important parcel. It has important economic development opportunities for the city of Montpelier and resilience opportunities too, in terms of how we think about our downtown. So we think it's important to be proactive with that. So I'm really happy to field any questions, but we really appreciate the partnership and the support on this work.
And to be clear, each of these projects is more than the $100,000 that we've committed, but you're looking to have a commitment for a city's share in the cost, matching share, right?
Indeed. And in fact, we are working furiously to identify other funding sources for each of these projects. I would really think about the leveraging that these funds will provide in terms of other sources of funding.
Thanks, John. Carrie.
Yeah, I do have a question, actually. I'm just wondering about the time frame for these projects, if you have kind of a general sense of, I mean, you may not at this point, but tell me what you're thinking so far.
I would say, honestly, 2025 for all of them. We think about our period of my work as the commission really lasting through spring of 2026. So there's urgency for us. I'm not sure I can be more specific than that, but these are all critical priorities for us.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Steve, do you want to be heard on this?
Well, I'm supportive of this work getting done, and I think I've even contributed it to the specification of what that building inventory improvement through my conversations with the Regional Planning Commission. But I have a real problem. These three are essential city government planning tasks, and I don't believe it's legal or proper or ethical to delegate them or abdicate them to a shadow government, an operation doing business behind closed doors, not open meetings, not public records. I think we should reconsider that $100,000 commitment and make it contingent upon compliance with public meeting and public records laws. This is unconscionable. It also raises a real question of why aren't these things in our municipal plan draft, which has just been released? I'll note that one thing that's been in our plan year after year is the walkability of the town, and yet nobody did anything to prevent the hotel owners from shoving 10 feet of snow across the whole way that people are trying to get from the bike path to the Haney lot or to the church where the meals are. So I just think that's just one example, but my point is each one of these things cannot be done behind closed doors, especially not with public money.
Thanks, Steve. So anyone else have any questions? Is there a motion to approve item,
Motion warrant to approve that money back.
it's actually on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve item F of the consent agenda?
No, the recommended was no action. If you read Fraser's letter.
We're reviewing this now.
So I believe we get Sarah LaCroix online. She might be able to step in here for a minute. But we have been in contact with John Copans, and he might be able to share a little bit about that conversation. But I think generally what we're looking for is awareness of these projects. And the idea would be that the funding would remain in the city's coffers until we would reimburse for it. It's slightly different than what actually is in the memo, but that's what we're looking to do is generate awareness so that we can, work through, these projects. So if you wanted to maybe show support for the projects, that would be helpful. I don't know, John, if you've had any comments to that effect or not.
We've lost the PA, by the way.
Give it a minute to get it back.
Can you hear from me on this?
Yeah, that would be great, John, if you want to go ahead.
Yep. So I think our sense in working with Sarah was that we want to come back to you with some sense of direction with projects. That's what you asked us to do back when you approved this initially. And so for us, it is helpful to have a sense that the council thinks this is the right direction to go. It's also really helpful as we pursue other funding sources, because if we are if we're working with the municipality, and we are working with the municipality on these projects in various degrees, it's very helpful to have a vote of the council that supports them.
Makes sense. So where are we? Does everybody think this is consistent? How are we doing with this PA? There we go. Thank you. Do people agree that this is consistent with our commitment and our plan? All right. Is that good enough for you, John? For tonight?
That's great. I guess my question is, as we pursue these projects and move forward with them, my understanding is then that will be then between us and Sarah as the finance director at that point, and not need to come back before council for those. Am I correct in that?
I think that's probably right. We'll discuss that, but I think that's probably right because the funds are already committed.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're always, of course, interested in hearing how things are going. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have something listed on the agenda as budget informational session. It actually is ballot informational session because it is a session for people to ask questions about, discuss any item that is on the city meeting ballot. And there's also a session about the bonds, but for now we're talking about the budget and other items on the ballot. Carrie.
Should we void Article 12 before we move on to discussing the ballot?
Oh, we can.
If I might, my apologies, but there was an update to the agenda that did include the void as this first item before we got into the informational item. So I think maybe the update on that agenda didn't come through.
Right, it's not in the printed one that I have.
I'm happy to share this one if you'll kindly just look past my notes.
Sure. So we'll go to item 6, which is a discussion of the Article 12 on the city meeting ballot. Thanks, Carrie. And this has to do with an error between the city clerk's office and the printer for the wording of item 12, so that it is unintelligible and meaningless the way it's been printed. And so the advice we received was to void the ballot so it could be taken up at a future date. Would probably require a special city meeting to be called to address it. John Odom, do you have anything to add?
No, that covers it. Although I have to say, it wasn't the printer's fault, it was mine.
There we go. Candor compels that. All right. Is there a motion to void Article 12? And what this will mean is that any ballots that have already been cast for it won't be counted. Any ballots that go through the tabulators on town meeting day, they'll go through the meeting. They'll be counted, but they won't be recorded or reported. And I think we'll probably have some kind of sign out front telling people they don't need to vote on Article 12, but we're not going to do anything to like cross out Article 12 from all the ballots. Obviously, that would be not feasible. Is there a motion to void item or Article 12? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now, thank you, Carrie. We'll move on to ballot informational session. This is for anyone who has any questions about the budget items or any other item on the ballot for next week. And do you want to say something to start out?
I do. So we have prepared just a briefing, a couple of slides, just to kind of give the community a sense of where we are. We're also happy to, just take questions, whatever the pleasure of the council is.
I think it's a good idea to start do the presentation.
Okay, can do. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate the time keeping. So the purpose of this presentation is just to kind of give us a rough sketch of what is in the budget, how things have changed year over year, so folks know what they're voting on. And then following the presentation, just a quick summary of the individual ballot items, just so that, there's awareness there, and then open discussion. So as you can see here on this slide, I've also got Sarah on the line, just in case if there are any specific questions. This is what we intend to kind of go through. And a lot of this, apologies, you've heard before, but we just want to make sure that, it's said again for folks. So I'm not going to read everything off here. Really, the meat of the presentation is right there in the middle with the FY26 budget overview. And then a couple of the articles that are larger money items for this particular cycle. So just looking at this here, these are the principles that we use to construct the budget. So we sought out to implement the strategic plan. So as you recall, the strategic plan is focused on 5 items, and they are to build and maintain sustainable infrastructure, create more housing, rebuild and plan for future resiliency, advance the economy, and improve public health and safety. We also worked to increase investment in the capital plan, which is pretty important based on the survey results and the direction that we got from council. We also worked to prioritize public safety and public works, to deliver responsible services, and work on getting the tax rate down. So here, just starting at a high level, this is the total general fund budget. So it's about 18.1, and it's up about 4.71%. And then moving on to the non-tax revenue, that's about 5.9, up 7.6%. So these two are inverse items. One is expenditure based in the total budget. The other is other revenues. We're going to get into the property tax revenues next, but I just wanted to highlight this one because this includes items like pilot, building permits, ambulance, and state highway. So just a couple of things that are included in that category of revenue. And then the piece that is most important and most impactful, I think, is the amount to be raised by property taxes. So this year it's a 12.2, almost 12.3. It's up about 417, almost $18,000 at 3.52%. And just in comparison to last year, for FY25, we were at 11.9 for 364,000, up or 3.2%. So just giving you a sense in what those numbers look like. That's not the total overall up, but what it does give you a sense of the amount to be raised by property taxes, less the ballot items. So I'll get into that in the next slide. So this is kind of a breakdown of all the things that people will be voting on. So that one was just specific to, property tax items. But if you include these items, the library and mosaic, Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice, the community fund, that's a total up of 600, or a total of 625,000 or so, and it's an up of 158,000. And so what that then means is that adds an additional 1.25%, which means that the total up is 4.7. So then looking at a few other items here that are of note, Article 6 is for the Downtown Improvement District. And so noted in the article language this year is $62,000. Typically, we don't have or haven't had the value noted. And I just wanted to call that out because it's that up is associated with the increase in property valuations with the reappraisal. And so the formula is the same, the rate is the same, but there's more money generated. In years past, that particular item has been about 41,500, just to give you a sense of where that stands. And then we've got the water sewer rates here that are projected at an increase of 3.5% plus 1%. And so that's been a standard that we've used, inflation plus 1% year over year to fund those things. So I'm not going to get into the details too much on this slide, but you can see just how the expenses go by category. And just to kind of bucket things a little bit further, about 56% of this general fund budget goes to public safety, 33% is non-public safety or admin, things like the city manager's office or planning, and then another 11% goes to capital. So just giving you a sense of how that kind of breaks down in a larger scale. This next one, I think, we're happy to report that there is an increase, and early on, you did signal that you wanted to make sure that we were investing in capital funding. And so in this budget, there's 2.6 million or so. It's about 9.2% up. And so that breaks down to just over $1 million in projects, just over $1 million in debt, and then about 484,000 in equipment. The important piece here that I also want to highlight is that paving, that budget is 725,000, and that's up over from the previous year of 10% if you just carve out those projects. So, there's an increase over 26 for capital funding of 220. Steady state is 260 year over year. So we're working on it. We are making progress, and we hope to continue doing that. So this slide just shows employees by function and area. So you can see where people are. On the side here, we've got a note about the FTE count and how we're down year over year. The past couple of years, we've been down or reduced staffing to work with the budget. In this particular cycle, I just want to note that we've got one position from DPW, one from Rec, and one from PD that were reduced in 25 and not restored. So they held in this budget. And then additionally, there was a reduction to the executive assistant to the city manager, one communications position in community services, 3 part-time employees, the treasurer, delinquent tax collector, and assessing. And then we've got a reduction in AmeriCorps and youth conservation. So for this year, that's where the reduction is. So our total FTE count now, and we're going into FY '26, is almost 113, or it's, to be precise, 112.96 employees. So this just shows, what the average tax bill would break down for, so what you're spending your money on. So typically what we do is we use the sort of average home value of $370,000. And then, just going on, you see what the tax bill would be for this property. And so just on the municipal side, the tax bill increase would be $166 or $13.83 a month. I do want to note that since we have developed these slides, we did get some information on the school tax. And so that actually brings it down for us. So it would end up being $91 a month for residential with the education tax estimate in there, or about $758 per month. So, there's positive movement there. And then this slide just shows you how those taxes are broken down. And where the rate comes from and what the dollar change is. I also want to note that Sarah's done a really nice job of putting up her year-over-year budget options worksheet, so you can take a look at that. You also could do a property tax calculator, so you can calculate your own tax bill in the same form online. So I would encourage anybody who wants to take a look at that. And if you have questions, please let us know. We're available. And then this is just a summary. So just kind of getting into, what this budget means, really trying to balance fiscal responsibility and providing essential services, really navigating a post-pandemic landscape, as well as, just flood-related costs and, what are associated with the projects that we have for resiliency, inflationary pressures, and then just really addressing long-term infrastructure and economic stability. And then we've got sort of the staff reductions there. And I think just wanting to underscore that as we go into FY '26, we will need to consider restructuring some departments, just because we are going to need to figure out how to get the work done. And we're already seeing a little bit of work shift between Evelyn and I and Mary's duties to just make sure that we can cover that ground. And, unfortunately, office hours are what we're seeing are a little bit of a struggle to make sure we've got somebody there. But we're working out the kinks and trying to figure out how we can make it all work, but we're, up for the challenge. So this next piece, I just want to just highlight, these are other remaining council items that will come to you. So one of these things is related to ambulance revenue. So we will be increasing the no transport fee. And so that's about $54,000 that will be added on, as well as looking at the regional fees to match, what others are charging for service. And so that's about $100,000. And so just to give you a sense of the realm of where we stand, in FY '25, we had budgeted $400,000 in revenue associated with this line item. In FY '24, the actuals came in at $493,000. So then we're also adding these revenue pieces. So as it stands right now, FY '26 is projected to, garner about $654,000. But if some of our history is any indication, that should be no problem to do. And the other piece here is we've got the elimination of the sprinkler tax credit for commercial buildings. And so this is approximately $71,000 in this particular line item. This is on the expense side because it's a credit. And so in FY '25, it was $92,500. And so that just gives you a sense of what it'll be brought down to. And so it's just reduced by that 71. So when you're looking for it, that's what that looks like.
So Kelly, will we be seeing all of these items on council agendas sometime between now and the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah, we wanted to be able to flag them for you, just so you know that's coming forward. It's just part of operationalizing FY '26.
Thanks.
Thank you. And so this next one, Article 5, is associated with local options tax. We do have a lot of good information and FAQs online, and we can kind of go through each of these components, but you can kind of look at them for yourselves. But essentially, the 1% will likely yield about $500,000 to $600,000 based on our estimates. And so depending on, how that goes, we'll monitor it. But the first 50 will go to Montpelier Live, the next 100 will go to infrastructure projects, and then the remaining balance will come back to council for review and approval. And so we can talk about any of these items, but it just is a new revenue stream. It's an opportunity to reduce the reliance on property taxes, and so get a little bit more money in to hopefully fund some of the projects that we need to do. So this next item, we're going to be talking about this in the bond hearing. This is the only bond item. So that should be a pretty quick agenda item, but I'll just get into it a little bit here. So we are looking to purchase a new ladder truck to the tune of $2.2 million. We do not anticipate that we will actually see anything hitting the budget for the next couple of years because it takes some time to advance and order this. And so we're looking for the authorization to purchase the truck. And then once we receive it, that's when we'll start to see the payments hit. And so town meeting day, March 4th. So just kind of going through the article items, unless if there are questions specific to the budget. That sounds good. And then we can open up for questions. Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
Council members have any questions? We voted for all of them, so.
Great.
All right. So I'll open the floor to any public comments or questions. Phyllis. Okay, come on up.
Hi there. I am Lex Lakin from Montpelier. I moved here when I was 6, almost 12 years ago. I'm still not able to vote, but hopefully my words will still matter. I'm testifying today to make sure everyone knows what anti-Semitism feels like in Montpelier. For me, anti-Semitism first reared its ugly, unwieldy head in 5th grade. We had to choose a great person from history and read their bibliography and present to the class as that person. One student chose Hitler, declaring a wonderful victory, saying he was super successful and achieved his goals, and was justified in the killing of filthy, greedy Jews because they didn't let him into art school. The teacher let this happen. They let the student do Hitler for the project. They let them use the internet as their source material, and they did not shut the presentation down before or during the presentation. Afterwards, the school did nothing. Worse than nothing, actually. They didn't inform parents, they didn't apologize, and instead they held a restorative circle where the school counselor said that everyone was allowed to have their own truth. Thus, history is meaningless. We were told that anti-Semitism isn't a thing in Montpelier. We were told what happened that day just didn't happen. Since then, I have endured small acts of anti-Semitic aggression for years. Whispered taunts from classmates, jokes and tropes laughed at in front of me, and important school events scheduled on the high holidays, year after year, with an, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know," after every single time. 2 years ago, a swastika made of feces was smeared on the bathroom wall of the high school, this building. Nicknamed by students, pardon my language, the shitstika, the administration washed away the evidence and publicly declared that the incident was not anti-Semitic. They did not call the police, and again, there was restorative circles where we were told it was not anti-Semitic, further gaslighting the Jewish kids in school. And again, anti-Semitism was deemed acceptable, understandable, and justified. After the feces swastika, more overt bullying began, to my face, in class, in front of teachers who, although I asked, did not do anything. I should not have had to say anything or request their help. As the adults in the room, their inaction and silence emboldened the perpetrators and condoned the anti-Semitism, again, as acceptable, understandable, and maybe even justified.
Thank you. This is pretty shocking. That's your 3 minutes. If you have a written statement that you'd want to include with, and leave with us, that's fine too.
My name is Marnie Lakin, and since my son can't continue, I will read this for him. So I'll start with the teachers. As the adults in the room, their inaction and silence emboldened the perpetrators and condoned the anti-Semitism. Again, is acceptable, understandable, and maybe even justified, or maybe aligned with their own prejudices. I had to make a formal federal complaint to administration about the students and the teacher to see any action. A few weeks ago, there were more swastikas drawn in the high school, again in this building. This time, the principal knew to call it a hate crime and to call the police immediately. The principal was reminded to call the ADL and the Department of Education Civil Rights Office. Anti-Semitism is a federal offense. And now the town is set to vote on an article that asks residents to say, through their ballot, the Jews in this country, and specifically in this country, are specifically responsible for all of the terror in Israel. This article has nothing to do with local politics. This article feels like anti-Semitism. There has never been an article proposed to oppose the genocide and sexual violence in Sudan, the genocide through starvation in Yemen, the kidnapping and rape of girls in Congo, nor the abduction, mutilation, and rape of teens in Israel. I would support an article condemning violence around the world. I would support an article condemning fascism. I would support an article condemning systematic starvation, but that is not this article. This article takes advantage of the anti-Semitism in our community, in the reflexive act of the community to brush under the rug when anti-Semitism appears, and to tacitly condone anti-Semitism because it simply doesn't happen here. We all deserve to feel safe and welcome in Montpelier. He wants to feel safe in Montpelier. He wants to feel accepted and a part of the community. This article asks the community to vote on whether or not he can be safe. This article feels like anti-Semitism.
Thank you. Phyllis.
Phyllis Rubenstein, a Montpelier resident. When I was here 2 weeks ago, I talked about the swastikas in the high school, but certainly I can't convey the feelings of a high school student and someone who experienced anti-Semitism since the 5th grade. I think it's extremely important to listen to what Lex has to say. I'm here to speak today because one of my friends received a flyer. I didn't receive it, but received a flyer asking residents to vote in support of Article 13, saying that in 2024, Montpelier residents' tax share of U.S. military aid to Israel was $678,850. The 2026 proposed Montpelier budget is an increase of over $1 million from 2025. The money that went to Israel last year is more than half of that amount. That money could buy Montpelier a new fire truck or fund the jobs of city workers who are about to lose their jobs. This cannot be true. But I see this as a way that the people supporting Article 13 are trying to make it into a local issue. But this is, I believe, all based on misinformation. To my knowledge, and there was an excellent presentation by Kelly Murphy about the upcoming budget, there's no money budgeted for Israel. As I said 2 weeks ago, the geopolitical history in the Middle East is extremely complicated. But anti-Semitism is also very complicated, and it began 2,000 years ago. In the Middle Ages, as well as 2,000 years ago, Jews were forced to either convert or be killed. In 1492, Spain expelled its Jewish population. In the 19th century, there were restrictions on where Jews could live and what occupations they could hold. There were pogroms against Jews where their homes and stores were looted and people were killed. There was the Dreyfus Affair in France, an enlightened country, in 1894, where Alfred Dreyfus, a captain in the French army, was accused and convicted of treason, only to be found that he did not commit those acts.
Thank you, Phyllis. Is there anyone else in the room would like to be heard on any item on the ballot?
Yeah, Steve would agree again. I somehow missed that the downtown improvement district raise of 1.05% was going to happen, even if we took Montpelier Live off of the DID budget. So that I've been complaining of a bait and switch, and that's just another one. The local option tax, 1% plus a 1.05% on the downtown improvement district adds more than 2% to our sales tax in downtown Montpelier, if I understand it correctly.
I don't think you do, because that 1.05 downtown improvement district tax is not sales tax, it's property tax.
Okay. Where is the money for the Fraser buyout going to come from? Because that wasn't in the budget. And then I want to I'd like an answer to that if you have one. The capital budget and program, which y'all have approved for a little bit of paving and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, some new trucks, a couple $100,000 in new trucks, is not 5 years of capital projects plus the source of funds plus the priority in order to get us the growth center designation, which qualifies us for the TIF. So failing to address that, the statutory requirements for a capital budget and program, which are the planning commission's responsibility, I might add, but they should have put it together and fed you for approval, has not been done. There's nothing in there for sidewalks, roads, water, sewer, transportation for Country Club Road, which probably means we're going to miss our opportunity to get that designation of expanded growth center and TIF district, which expires this October 1st. So the fact that that was brought to your attention before the budget was complete, but apparently people are unaware of what the statutory requirements of a capital budget program are. But we also have no money in the budget for the new 4-inch step in the heaved concrete in the dooryard of our fire station, which is a real hazard. There's hazards all over town. I walked around town with a very elderly person in a walker today. And just the hazards that we are tolerating and causing other people to suffer and risk their health or life on is unconscionable. But I would like an answer to where the money for Fraser's buyout is going to come from.
To be determined. It's not, the source has not been identified.
Are there
To
slush
date.
funds built into the budget that we don't know about?
No. The budget is fully transparent. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to address the council on any item on the ballot? Is there anyone online who wants to raise your hand to have a comment or a question about the ballot? Seeing none, I'll move to the item about the bond informational session. We heard a brief presentation from Kelly. I don't think we need to hear any more at this point, but Kelly and the chief are both here if anyone has any questions about the fire engine bond. I'll take comments either from the floor or from Zoom. All right. Seeing none. That is our business for the day. We'll move to other business, which we don't have other business, and then we'll move to council reports. Starting Carrie with you. Palin?
I have report because it is the last meeting before the election. I requested to meet with department heads or their teams. So I really appreciate their time to meet with me. So I met with Alec, Parks Department, and Amy from Senior Center. And I've learned a lot from them. So it was really productive discussion, and I will meet Chief Libby and Army tomorrow. And if anyone has from public, if they have any questions, they can email me. I can ask for them. But I am really learning a lot from them. So I thought this will be a good communication channel to work with city departments and city council together as a team. So I really appreciate department heads meeting with me. And so hopefully I will be here after the election, but I just wanna share a couple of things tonight. So when I moved to Montpelier in 2017 from Turkey, now we call Turkey, we changed the name. It is very Turkish. I carried more than just a suitcase. I carried hopes, dreams, and the weight of an uncertain future. Starting over in a new country as an immigrant wasn't easy, but it taught me resilience, humility, and the importance of building community. Montpelier Montpelier welcomed me, and I fell in love with this town's charm, its people, and the deep-rooted sense of belonging it offers to those willing to be part of its story. This community gave me a home. Yeah, now I'm dedicating myself to giving back in every way I can. Becoming a city councillor wasn't a part of my original plan, but life unexpected twists often show us where we are meant to be. And I know what it's like to start from scratch, to feel unheard, and to have to fight. And to have to fight for a seat at the table. These experiences show my commitment to making sure that every voice in District 2 is heard, especially those who may feel overlooked. I lived through the challenges of transition and reinvention, and those lessons have become my compass. It is why I care so deeply about inclusion, transparency, and building bridges between residents and city government. When I sit at the council table, I carry the experiences of not only my journey, but also the stories you have shared with me, District 2 residents. From listening to downtown businesses advocating for a reasonable budget to hosting monthly listening session where your input shapes my decisions. I act because I know what it means to have someone in your corner.
I put my heart into this work because I learned that being a leader means more than holding a title. It means showing up for people, asking the right questions, and doing the hard work to bring real change. District 2 isn't just where I serve, it is where I live, dream, and raise my family. I'm an immigrant American with a deep love for Montpelier, and I will continue to serve with the same passion, dedication, and hope that brought me here in the first place. So thank you for believing in me, and thank you for listening to me.
Thanks, Pamela.
Walking down the street, I noticed in the store windows, the Valentines are still up on many, and interspersed among them, there are little signs to say, "Thank you, DPW." That really resonated for me. I want to thank the folks that have been working through this amazingly snowy winter, and in some cases working all night long, clearing our streets and sidewalks and keeping Montpelier moving. You can't please everybody, but I'm very grateful and thank you very much. I think it's my last meeting, so it's been an interesting ride. We've done a lot of, been through a lot between the flood and 23. This council's faced a lot and still is. It's like a moving train that's going to just keep going through the station next Tuesday. And I'll jump off and Jim Sheridan will be in my seat. Hopefully Talen's here and Ben Doyle. So they're big challenges and I think great people to keep working on them. I encourage you to keep discussing issues, keep listening to each other. Democracy is a lot of work and it's worth it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Report, I just have a couple of items. First, I want to express my gratitude for the members of the council. It has been just in the time that I've been on the council in the last few years, we have dealt with a lot. Floods, fires, a pandemic. It's been a lot of work and people, I think a lot of people who sign up to be on the council out of the desire to serve and help their community really don't know how much work and what it's going to be until you get there. And so this is Tim's last meeting. Lauren's last meeting was last week, and I really appreciate and thank you for everything you've done during that time. Tim, if we were in City Hall, you'd be taking your nameplate from the front of your desk, but so you'll have to come and pick that up another time. But thank you, especially to Tim and Lauren, because you're leaving, but to the whole council for the work in the past year. Second, the annual report is out. It's at City Hall, and a lot of the stuff we've talked about, and a full report of what your city government and all the city departments have been doing is there. I encourage everyone to pick it up and read it. All the ballot items are printed in the annual report. And finally, congratulations to the Montpelier High School girls and boys Nordic ski teams. Girls team, state champs for the first time ever. Boys team came in second. Great work, you guys. One of my sons was on the Nordic team for 1 year when he was in high school, and that was almost 20 years ago. And so it's great that it's an activity that people are continuing to do, and the city's going to be proud. Thanks. That's it for me. City clerk's report.
Yeah, just a reminder or news if you don't know, in the past, we've always had early voting on the Saturday before the election in the clerk's office from 10 to 2, and this year is no different. So it's an opportunity, hopefully, to avoid the lines. Hopefully you aren't just walking into more lines, but it's usually pretty light. So it's usually a good opportunity to come down and not have to wait too long to vote. So come on out.
Thanks, Jonathan. Kelly.
So I do have a few things. I'm sorry, I'll try to make it quick. So the first thing is you all received an email from Turtle Island. They're looking for new space. had a presentation last meeting on Country Club Road and the use of that space. And so the way that it was voted, it was specifically for proposals to be developed related to recreation uses. This use would not be recreation, but I wanted to bring it up here tonight to see if you would like to consider those types of proposals, if you'd like it to come forward as a future agenda item, or if you'd like staff to work through proposals, or if you'd like to just keep it the way it is right now, which is just the recreation purpose. I will say that we have started holding meetings with the hub to develop proposals. And so we could certainly, expand that if you so wish, but I just wanted to bring it up to see what your thoughts were.
Well, answers from people right now.
That would be awesome.
Okay, so I'm interested in talking about possibilities because childcare is something that has been on our list of things that might happen at the Country Club Road property since before we even bought it. I think that our move recently to ask for proposals that were related to recreation was something that we frankly did very quickly. It was at a recommendation that came to us and we said, okay, sure, we'll do this. I would be open to amending that so that we could consider a wider range of proposals. I think we would have to amend that though.
Yeah, so I'll bring it to next meeting for amendment, and then we'll work on that. And I can get some more details on what they do.
So one thing I just want to highlight, Phil mentioned in that meeting, I think it's very important, is that we are discussing and like directing him to do this because he heard from some part of the public, they said, oh, there should be more proposals, right? Not only one. So if there's like a childcare proposal, only one, then it might be, I don't know, I would say tricky. I don't know the right word. So if we amend, which I'm okay with it, I think we should, say something about it, like Phil said, right? So we will not only receive one proposal, then we will say, yeah, great idea, let's do it. I don't know, like the details, it's just remind thing that Bucky shared with us.
Tim, do you have anything to add?
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, it's, I think we want to be careful. We know that Turtle Island has a particular need right now, but we also know that $1 million from the rec fund went into purchasing the property. And we also know that there is a desire to cast a broad net. So I think we probably need to look at it again. Whether it's on the 12th or the 26th.
It's just the guidance that you did.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly.
So the next thing is we had a request, I believe you, to come forward with an agenda item on federal funds and status with the new administration. We don't have a lot of good information at this point to present, but I am putting it on our list and on our docket to bring it to you because it is important. So I just wanted to highlight that. But I also did want to share with council that we are starting to see some impacts. So the Department of Energy grant that we have right now for the rec center is on hold. And so that's not great news. And I'm not sure what the outcome will be, but that's where we are with that one. And so we very much would like the opportunity to brief council on the full ramifications of our federal funds. But that is one right now that we know that we did get notice on.
So I really appreciate you are thinking to make this as an agenda item because it was just a question from me. So I'm really happy to hear that that we can discuss because recession is coming, right? We will have economic stagnation soon, plus this funds are being housed or frozen. So yeah, this is very good news for me that city staff will look into it and just like explain us and the public because it's very important part of the public services, I think.
Oh, for sure. So on the flip side of that, a little bit of positive information, and we'll see where it goes. So it's just a little bit of, maybe good news. But just to share, the Northern Borders Regional Grant process has opened, and the applications are due on March 7th. And so we're working to put something in for that, as we have in the last couple of years. Our primary goal is to focus on Country Club Road and infrastructure. But we'll be working with departments to determine whether or not there are additional projects that we might want to put in for, but likely that's what we would do there, and we would bring anything to you along with that. And then we also got notice from Senator Welch's office that they will be opening their congressionally directed spending portal with a due date of March 28th for projects. And so, as in past years, there's usually a crosswalk between those grant processes, and we usually submit. So we'll keep you posted on what goes in, but I just wanted to highlight that, potentially there could be some room there. I mean, we'll see, but we'll keep trying to see what we can get. The other thing I wanted to mention was, changes, and I'll mention it again next meeting, and Jack reminded me this week of this, and Evelyn and I are on it, are tours of facilities. We really want to bring people around to the different buildings. It's just really important to see what folks do. And I think this year is really critical for that, just because there's so much ground that we cover, and it's pretty impressive. Like the water department, for instance, you could eat off that floor. I'm not just saying that. You should come check it out. So Evelyn and I are going to work on those. And then, the fire department, just being able to see the state of that building right now after the flood, and all the work that they do there. It's impressive. I mean, it's just, the list goes on. So I'll keep going. But anyway, just hopefully you'll be able to hop on a tour. And then I just want to note, just that DPW has been working really, really hard to get the downtown cleared. And we also have been getting some questions about just rain events, the river levels, what we're doing to watch that. And so Public Works and our public safety team, they're on it. But I just want to share that the first step is really getting downtown cleared, so that the drains are kind of cleared up and things can flow freely. But then we'll be moving on to working on culverts and drains in addition to that. So we are monitoring closely, and hopefully things ease up. But it's been a very crazy weather cycle. So we'll see what happens next. And that's what I have. So thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, we are done. We are adjourned at 7:41 p.m.